something in Slack or something. Welcome everyone. This is top 8 match between Mike Kessling and Brad Kippel. It looks like Mike has opted to start as the light side player. So that game is just getting started. Let me get it open here. I'm Joe, arebelspy. I'm joined with Justin, who is goes as Jagteq or Hazardville, and we'll be your commentators today. They are going to play both games here back to back, so we'll see how this goes. And it looks like Brad has opted for Entanglements, which is a dark side deck that sets up a bunch of Imperials on Tatooine and tries to drain and do Tatooine occupation damage. And Kessling is playing No Idea, which is a light side spy deck that tries to deploy some spies over onto Scarif and take the Stardust and do some ping damage. So
No Idea, pretty common deck from Texas Mini Worlds, from Open in general right now. I don't actually know that we've seen this matchup on stream yet in this tournament.
Yeah, this is interesting. So first thing to note, No Idea does its very standard 3 effects. Whereas Entanglements normally starts Arrest Order and/or Shield, and then their third one is Mobilization Points. And Brad has opted to go for Decree, which will reduce the Stardust damage, but will slow down his activation since he'll probably turn 1, get Piet to a docking bay and that sort of stuff. So I from what I've seen, a lot of times people float the Decree and try and use the flip side and or Tarkin's bounty to search for that. So we'll see if that sets him back too far.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I could see it going both ways because, since No Idea can pull its space, unlike in a lot of other matchups, Imperial Entanglements does actually have to dedicate some defense to protecting the Devastator. Like in a lot of matchups, you can just put Ozzel and like one other guy there, and you're reasonably safe if you have like a command. But that's not necessarily the case against No Idea. So since you kind of have to split your focus a little, it makes sense to pull Decree, since you might not be able to fight them on Scarif right away.
Mm-hmm.
But not having mobilization points doesn't mean he has to float the Executor also, which is another useful space piece that I imagine he would probably want at some point in this matchup. But
right, he's vulnerable to getting massively outpowered in space if Mike stacks 4 ships and he's only got the 1 Devastator. So having that Executor for power is pretty crucial, and not being able to pull that is important. We see Brad, his first turn, uses command to pull a Grand Admiral Thrawn, and then uses his indoor shield pulls for Ozzel and Piet. And he also used Fanfare to pull Alert My Star Destroyer. The non-virtual lets you shuttle up a Moff, Dark Jedi, or Admiral. I imagine he'll drop down Ozzel for free and shuttle him up for 1 and play that, which will make the Devastator completely immune to attrition. So that's one way to protect it. It used to be somewhat popular. Watch Your Step was sort of its bane, since it played Control Tunnel, which can cancel that. But otherwise, it's a pretty solid way to make your Devastator immune. As far as this match in general, I think I've played it a few times, but all pre-tweak set errata. And at the time, No Idea would deploy -1 anywhere, and they were playing so many guys, they would just swarm all over Tatooine after setting up just a Stardust beach ping, and then they just go all over Tatooine and have just more guys than Dark, have them cheaper than Dark, and just flip Dark back, and would handily win by 15 to 20. Now that it's more expensive for those spies, they don't get the -1 except on Scarif. I still think I would favor No Idea, because Entanglements plays so many cards to table it can't afford to just lose a bunch, and No Idea can do very fast damage when they grab the Stardust, move to the beach, and they're just doing 3/3/3 right away. But I do think, since Light won't be able to attack as aggressively on Tatooine, Darkseid will be able to get set up and and do some more damage. And I would favor No Idea in this, but maybe by 8 to 10.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably going to be closer. I mean, I think there's also the aspect in No Idea's favor that it seems pretty likely that No Idea will be able to get its free damage going reasonably easily. Because if Imperial Entanglements is dedicating its resources to trying to get to its flip side so that it's able to do damage, that limits what they can go to Scarif with, and then also with the fleet capability of No Idea, IE seems like it's going to have a hard time relying on occupation to really do anything. Certainly looks like we're not really going for occupation early here at all, since he's moved the Devastator to Scarif immediately.
So
he did open him the mobilization points,
mm-hmm.
although I didn't see if he actually pulled the Executor with it. I assume he did, but no, it doesn't look like he has yet.
Okay. So his real quick recapping Brad's first turn, it was after I mentioned pulling the Ozzel, Thrawn, etc. He played Piet to the docking bay, and Piet pulled the Admiral's Order, and the Admiral's Order pulled a vehicle, and then he shuttled up Ozzel to make it immune, moved the Devastator over, and moved Ozzel over. So he's going to get that +2 activation with mobilization points there. Brad's hand size is really low, and that's one big problem that I've found with entanglements is it's hard to do all your stuff and still be able to draw. So at some point, about 3 or 4 turns in, you're left with 2 cards in hand and not much to do. And that's when light sort of takes over the game, takes over the board. And I think it's important actually as entanglements to sort of draw early and to take it a half a turn slower than you would, so you don't get set back a full turn mid-game and lose control sort of and have that spiral.
Yeah, because I think the hope is that if everything goes well, you get all your stuff out, play all your stuff out, and then you flip, and then you can use the text of the control phase text on the 7 side to keep your hand stocked with something to do every turn. But if your opponent disrupts your flip in any way, it makes it really hard to combat them. I've encountered that same thing. I haven't played IE2 too much, but I've certainly run into that same thing where you're looking at like 3 cards in your hand on turn 3 and having 5 different places to go to. So
right, and so there's a couple key things. If light side can keep dark side on the front side by controlling more Tatooine sites than them, and then after that preventing dark side from controlling 3, dark side can't drain at the system and can't do occupation damage, and that shuts off a lot of their damage. So that's really advantageous for light. In the chat, Silverglen notes, this was when I was talking about sort of who's favored between the two. He notes it kind of all depends on occupation. If dark can flip, get occupation out, and start doing like 3 to 4 damage a turn plus ping drains and be doing 7 to 8, dark can be looking pretty good. However, so light's got double projection of a Skywalker, which will make 2 of the sites drain -1 if he gets both out. So right now it's making this site a drain 0. The other thing is light has Menace Fades, which I don't think there's any drain bonuses unless Brad's playing something weird like a Judlin Wastes or Tuscan Canyon or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen like Lars Moisture farm occasionally.
Yeah, but probably not.
Yeah.
But the other thing is Kessling, as part of Team New Allies, I just played Taco Bill in my round of 8, and I played Greg in the next round, so I'm pretty familiar with their No Idea list, and I know they have been playing Free Ride combo recently, and of course they have an Escape Pod combo to pull their Hujik. So one of those cancels occupation, the other suspends it for a turn, and of course they have a 3PO-like character who can keep looping the suspend a turn if the Free Ride combo is grabbed. So if Dark can keep that occupation out, they can do a lot of damage, but I'm betting Kessling has both an occupation suspender and a canceller in this deck, and that will make it a lot harder for Brad to keep occupation going if he does flip.
Yeah, well, so it does seem like there is a possibility that, and based on the turn 1 moves here, it seems like that may possibly be what he's going for, that Brad can do a fair bit of damage by dedicating his resources to Scarif.
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, typically, yeah, one of the problems is that IE just doesn't do that much damage on the ground. They really need occupation to be doing a lot. But No Idea gives up 2 Drain 2 locations since IE is almost certainly going to occupy Scarif with a Star Destroyer. And if they can hold the beach and Scarif, they can do a lot of damage. And they give up a little bit of they give up some ability for Lightside to do damage back, obviously at the Tatooine system and like the deserts are drained too. But they can kind of keep up the pressure a little bit that way, even without occupation.
Yeah.
Also, the number of walkers that are likely going to be in a deck with battle deployment helps a lot against Saw, since Saw is only going to count present opposing characters, and they could just all hide in the walker, so he doesn't get an attrition bonus.
Right, and additionally, there's No Idea plays Leia Organa V, so we know they're not going to have General Leia to suspend any Admiral's orders.
Right.
And then, yeah, like you said, if Dark wants to do an alternative plan, they can take the beach and take Scarif and drain 2 and 2 there. I do think he just moved over turn 1 so he can get that free drain of 2, basically pay 1, and then pay 1 to move back, so pay 2 to drain 2. I'm betting he'll probably move back this turn and try and set up a flip, and but we'll have to see. I do think.
Yeah, the deploying Tempest Scout 1 to Tatooine certainly would suggest that.
Right, he probably will not be taking the beach. Yeah, I think. So Mike's turn 1 was just to play evac control via Don't Tread and then draw some. So Mike's hand, he's got 10 in hand because he lost 2 from hand, double agent and relatively unprotected to the drain at Scarif. So he's got 10 on evac setup and 4 saved. He's gonna have 19 force to deploy those 10 cards with. He'll be able to do whatever he wants.
It doesn't actually look like Brad pulled the Executor at all with mobilization points yet. So he may already have it in hand.
Yeah,
he may think he doesn't need it, but
it could be one of his 5 cards, or he might have forgot, because normally your first turn of the game, your very first action is pull Executor before you activate, before you do anything. And since he didn't do that as the very first action because he didn't start mob points, it might be that it's just he's not thinking of it at the moment. As soon as light goes to space, he will, and it is very much the case that he might already have it in hand.
Clever. I don't think I've seen that before. Brad shuffled his guys around so that the Tempest Scout 1 is piloted, and then docking bay transited from one Tatooine docking bay to the other Tatooine docking bay, so that he got away from projection.
Right. Yeah. He still wants to activate more with mob points, and so.
Yes, he still wants to occupy the docking bay, but
to move
wants
both
to drain
of them instead of moving them individually to other sites.
Yeah. That's a good point, Silvergun. I'd consider that the relatively unprotected wouldn't be necessary since there's not going to be attrition on Star Destroyers to take out, but stopping the react walkers is a pretty reasonable use of that card. So
that's a good point. I did notice he lost relatively unprotected, but obviously I wasn't thinking of the TTO cancel react stuff. That's definitely a useful card. He did pause and think for a long time before losing that second card. I noticed that he lost a double agent from hand, and then he thought for a while and then lost that relatively unprotected. So maybe he's thinking there just won't be that much interaction, or he's not going to be initiating battles in there. He may be just deploying over here to do damage and then blocking some drains. And so yeah, but he I guess he decided he didn't need that.
So we got Tanev and Luke Skywalker V going to Tatooine. Tantive from hand.
And Luke is the most annoying card playing against No Idea, because it's so hard to get damage through, because he just ping retrieves 1 every turn, and then they randomly retrieve with their objective, and you really got to grind through a lot of guys and a lot of damage, and it can be tough. So, looks like... Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed the commando team would have gone there. I would have guessed the beach, and then Baze would move over.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wonder if he's worried about like a big walker force coming down to the beach.
I think he's worried about walker and then trample. And so he doesn't want to just put he's not going to be flipped and can't cancel the trample destiny. and with no rebels in the lost pile as well. I think he doesn't want to go out there with just a couple of guys and have Walker trample hurt him.
Yeah, and he must not have or decided he didn't want to use his objective to deploy more space, because otherwise he could keep the flip by playing the characters split and deploying Tandem and Luke to Scarif instead, but you can't really do that unless you have other space support against the Devastator.
A completely immune Devastator that's getting, I guess he'd evac it, but yeah.
Yeah, but the completely immune Devastator is outpowering by 6 anyway, so.
So yeah, I think Dark's going to move that Devastator back in front to block. I'm not sure about this projection. I kind of would have liked it on the desert, because a lot of with the dark side having walkers, they can move free to the desert and light side can't, and so that lets you just totally ignore the desert and not have to worry about moving there and shuttling up and shuttling down and try and get out of that trap.
Yeah,
it does save him a force this turn, obviously. And the other thing is, he may want to take the desert. He may want to be like, hey, that's a drain 2. I'm going to pile some dudes there. But a lot of times when I have a projection, like if in Legend, the desert's a good place to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of trying to pin Brad into having to make an uncomfortable decision. Because now occupying the docking bays or controlling the docking bays is highly relevant for his activation, but isn't going to achieve any damage.
Right.
So
if he moves away from that docking bay, he's still getting 13 force. So, and he will likely be on one of the docking bays just to flip.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to have to be on at least one docking bay to flip, so.
I like Brad's last turn. Rather than trying to, deploy Executor to back it up and use up all his force, or deploy a couple guys and flip really thin, he just deployed Thrawn and Tempest Scout 1, moved the stuff and drew a bunch, and that's really helpful for what I was talking about with the small hand size. I think that turn of kind of a weak turn to not do much in terms of advancing the board, really giving him that hand size to be able to do stuff like now, like blocking this drain.
Yeah. I mean, Emperor's shuttle there would certainly suggest Emperor and a pilot. Like, he'll pull off evac control, but then have to lose Luke to attrition.
I like how that shuttle is power 0 because of the battle deployment.
Just don't battle yet.
Interesting that's going to go to the docking bay, like you were just saying. It's kind of a place that doesn't do any damage, but so he does a flip, and he's flipped pretty thin. This is where that relatively unprotected would be really useful, because you could slap it on one of them, and so I think he's just gonna consolidate at 2 sites. It would be pretty easy for Mike to flip him back with guys at 2 sites and then in front of the other one and move.
Yeah,
but that's kind of a waste of, like, he only has 7 cards in hand. I don't know that that's what his plan is going to be.
The shuttle is really interesting.
Yeah, I don't,
because it wasn't. I guess it was necessary to deploy the occupation that turn.
Right.
Okay, so all right.
I think he's just going to get flipped back, though, or it's going to get canceled. There's just been, like, I don't know. Maybe if this is the turn he can get 4 occupation damage through before Mike gets a canceller, that was worth deploying now. It'll be interesting to see if sort of what direction Mike takes this, because there's a lot of walkers there who can react and do stuff, but none of them draw on their own unless he pitches Decree, which you don't want to do, especially this early.
Yeah. So if he can put forces in a couple of places and make him
right, and if he had that relatively unprotected, if he slapped it on, say, Tempest Scout 5, and then he attacked these 2, and he attacks first Blizzard Scout 1, then you're like, where does this one react to? Does it react to this battle or this battle? But, so, yeah, here's the thing. Brad only has 5 in hand again, and that's after taking the whole last turn to just draw, basically. So it's that's sort of the big problem with entanglements, is it just needs to use all its force, and it's so hard to balance that. I think that's what makes it a tricky deck more than anything, more than even the movement phase, is that the deploy versus draw phase is a tricky balance.
Yeah, it really taxes all of your resources. You have to be very good at properly evaluating what you need to use and when and all of that. I found it a really tough deck to learn for that reason, at least.
Yeah, I like it. It's fun though. I like the Imperial decks like this, like Rops, that sort of thing. Rops had the problem of the infinite recursion and stuff.
Yeah.
But I like how Entanglements is pretty much always interactive. Even against a deck like EBO, you're going to be fighting in space. EBO might play a speeder on the ground. Like there's almost no light side decks that won't just interact with Entanglements. And it's not because Entanglements is locking them down with the drain -1 or something. It's just you need to tangle with them.
So someone was asking in the chat, shouldn't Blizzard 1 be at the document and the AT-AT at the desert?
I think that's a little better, but maybe he wants Blizzard 2 there so that he can transit it over to this docking bay if needed. And
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I think it at the desert is a little better, but it's probably...
I do think the other point here to be considered about the reacts is that not every combination of these AT-STs actually draws it. Like, not just they don't draw Destiny on their own, but
even
like,
together. Yeah, this...
Scout 1 and Scout 3?
Well,
or
five is just an ability one. So if Piet's with either of them, it works. But 5...
Yeah, but Blizzard Scout 1 and Tempest Scout 5 are only 3 abilities together.
Right, so. Or if Tempest Scout 5 reacted over to Blizzard 2. 5 basically would need to be with Piet, because if it goes over to Blizzard Scout... Yeah, and that's where that relatively unprotected. If you attacked the desert and Mos Espa and you slapped it on Piet...
well, on Tempest Scout 1.
Yeah, Blizzard Scout 1. And then you attacked either one. One of them's dying and probably overflow.
I mean, and then the other thing too, which was part of a discussion somewhere about reacts and stuff. Cards like Odin Nestler combo are pretty common now, so there's other ways to be canceling the reacts even without Relatively Unprotected, which might actually be why Relatively Unprotected got pitched to that force loss.
Because he has an Odin hand. I still would have...
If he's not expecting to have to do it all the time,
yeah, I still would have kept it. I think you're right though that Tempest Scout 5 needs someone on it to that way he can draw Destiny. He can afford to have an Odin cancel a react and still react the other one over.
Yeah.
So Mike deploys from reserve deck his Bright Hope with his objective, and that flips him, and then he just moves Tanev over and moves his guys out to the beach. So right now,
to the beach too.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be drawing for an occupation. We're Doomed combo or Free Ride combo. Dark right now is poised to do 7 damage, 4 from occupation, and then 1, 1, and 1 drains. And Light is poised to do 4 damage and retrieve 1. So Dark's ahead by 2 each round, unless Light can find the cancelers and or start attacking. So Mike draws and saves. Yeah, Light's... I think Brad has played this before. I mean, No Idea is such a popular deck. I'm sure he's played this matchup before if he's been playing Entanglements. And and he knows he can't win a long grindy game if he starts too slow. So he just went all out, like just guy, flip occupation. All right, so Mike does have the suspender, which he will not lose force to it this turn. And Brad grabs it. I think the canceller is going to be in Mike's deck, so we'll see.
I mean, reasonable. You want to use your grabber on certainly one or the other. Presumably want to use it on the first one that's accessible, I would guess.
Yeah, and hope they don't find the other one. Hope they top deck it, something like that.
Yeah, or maybe that they didn't put you on playing IE and don't have it?
Maybe. I think Brad played IE in his last round, though, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
I think he was playing versus Edward Chien, and I think he played it versus Throne Room, I think. And Brad was already ahead in the match, so it just was a very quick game. But I think he played it his last round, so Kessling should have been putting him on it.
So Mike's just losing from reserve, lost Hujix, Masanya, and Menace Fades.
Masanya's an interesting card.
I've seen Masanya in a couple of these.
It's cheap. It's only 4.
Yeah, often 2 because you can get it with Profundity, and then
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And then
-2 to any Star Cruiser. Sure.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then it does give you some protection as well because I've seen a couple of dark side
Laser cannon
decks with
batteries
Star
or
Destroyers with laser cannon batteries. Yeah, because it's a certainly laser cannon battery is an excellent way to beat the splash space out of a main sec like TRM because it's pretty much always going to be
Tantive.
Tantive
Yep.
or Profundity.
Yep. And Masanya works with Bright Hope too. So yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't seen it in a ton. I think to fit it, you'd have to cut something like Gold Leader and Gold 1, which is fine. That's a card better in Legend than here, but it's still a nice card to have sometimes.
might also be a tech pick if you put Brad on not being a scum deck, then you can afford to lose Wedge and Rogue Squadron 1.
Sure. That's a good point. All right, so he looks for a trample with Blizzard 2 and does not find one. Oh, he does take Executor into hand with mob points.
Then was reminded that the Executor is still in his deck. Yes.
Yeah. No, he actually pulled the Executor first and then looked for a trample. So.
Oh, he did.
I don't know. Wow, so he has a 5th sight, which is rare. It's good versus mains because when mains does their big turn of flipping you back and then consolidates, you can go to an extra sight and flip, and then you're good.
And Desert's a pretty good one to have in this matchup as well because it's still the same movement limitations. Yeah. And cutting up Tatooine this way makes it really difficult for Lightside to try to move around on the ground and spread out and flip you back and all that.
Yeah. Right here, if I'm Brad, I think I'm shuttling down Thrawn because Mike cannot pull ships from his reserve right now because he's flipped. So if he wants to attack into the Devastator, which would be power 13 in a Destiny, Mike could maybe get above that, 13 in Destiny, but then he's probably pulling off evac anyway to draw. All you're losing from Thrawn is 3 power, and if you need to, you can just lose the Emperor shuttle and then come back at him. But shuttling down Thrawn onto Tempest Scout or Blizzard Scout gives you extra ability to draw that Destiny, gives you extra options when you're reacting and stuff, and I just don't think Thrawn is needed right now up there.
Yeah, I think dropping them in does accomplish a lot of the same things because he provides the ability he can be pulled along with a react movement as a passenger, as long as he's with Tempest Scout 5 at least.
Or a pilot.
Oh, well, he can't pilot, so.
Why?
Min was not a pilot.
Oh, Min. I thought we were still talking about.
Oh, yeah, no, Thrawn could, yes. No, you're right. Thrawn would be fun on any of these. Min works here, and I guess leaving. I mean, I would agree that shuttling Thrawn down seems like a slightly more efficient use of resources. I guess leaving Thrawn up there does force the use of evac control if he's going to attack space.
I think Mike would do it anyway just to get a character, get Ezra or get Chirrut. So I think it only costs you 3 power. The good thing about Min, if Brad can keep him alive and save 1 force, is he can use him to kill the free ride combo, and then both of those occupation cancelers will be dead. And if he just holds an extra occupation, and there it is. So he should use Min right here, and I think he will. Yep. Okay. So now occupation should be safe for the rest of the game if Brad can get it out again. So that was great having Min there. That Mike was probably disappointed to see him come down, and it's interesting that Brad saved so much force. He can activate 18. He only has 13 in reserve right now. He's got 20 total life force, so there was no need to save 6 force when he's only got 9 in hand. Like he should have drawn a few more. I don't like saving 7.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he'd be saving all that force for, because you just can't do that many react moves.
Right. All right. So Mike does a Stardust damage, and he loses command from Use Pile. That was the one he paid with Min, and then he drains one at Scarif, and he loses the command from reserve deck. So the commands are all going. And then he'll do
2 commands, right?
Yeah.
You think he only has 2, probably?
Maybe 3.
One for gold leader and gold 1. That's a good point, Silvergun. So he still probably could have afforded to draw 1 or 2 more cards.
Yeah. I just don't think Mike can attack space here. I mean, or he could, but it just wouldn't do anything. It would waste Mike's turn. Like, you'd be happy if you were Brad and he attacked into your Devastator, Ozzel, and Shuttle if your Thrawn's down on the ground, because you're like, all right, I'm power 13. Shuttle can forfeit for 5, and Devastator's totally immune. You're probably not outpowering 18. Even if you go Profundity, Bright Hope's over there. So even if you go, like, Profundity, Wedge and Ship, or Hunchui Falcon, like, you're going to get up to 20, 24 power. I'll draw a Destiny. I lose, like, the Shuttle and 1, and then I just drain. It's just, I think he'd be happy with that. So
Brad did just peel Tarkin and another occupation from reserve to the drain.
And interestingly, he's probably only playing 2 occupation.
Yeah, so I wonder if he would be playing 3. I know the Trooper IE builds used to run a lot more occupations, but the Walker builds that I've seen tend to run.
Yeah, it's 2 or 3, but a lot of times it's 2. If it was 2, I think Brad just made a big mistake because he knew what was in his reserve from searching with Trample, and so he should have known the top half dozen cards or so. Yeah,
the top 4 cards I think were all known because he also pulled he pulled with battle deployment.
Yeah, so he knew it was in the top 4, and he has cards in his force pile he could lose if he can't lose any from hand. And that's why he should have drawn a few more. But I think if he doesn't have an occupation in hand right now, then losing that 1 off the top and risking, especially if he only has 2 total, losing that would be bad.
That would certainly suggest to me that that's probably not that probably he does have one in him. Because otherwise you're right. I mean,
it's a big mistake.
You have to know that occupation. Yeah,
he was crossing his fingers.
It seems like a big enough mistake that that doesn't.
Maybe he might have been crossing his fingers like, oh, I hope it's not the 1 in 4 chance, and then it flips, and he's like, dang it.
Well, but I mean, he lost 3 from reserve deck that turn, so he would have to be. Yeah, because he lost the
Tarkin.
You're
right. You're right.
None of that. None of that makes sense if he's just gambling on occupation.
Yeah.
All right, so he's going down to the desert here to fight Blizzard Scout 1. Taidu. Yeah, so we're going pointing out that Kessling did not pull weapons display last turn. I believe he had 2-4 saved, if I remember right.
Yeah, that would have been a good.
So yeah, probably should have.
I don't know what other shields he would need. Interestingly, neither of them have battle order battle plan, but I can't see either of them getting kicked out of one of the theaters.
No, it's so easy for No Idea to satisfy battle order battle plan, and if IE can't satisfy them, then it's certainly losing anyway. So
Mike never lost a rebel, did he, to any of the drains or anything? So he doesn't have He lost
a Ray but retrieved it.
Masanya. Yeah, but as far as putting a rebel out of play to cancel a Trample Destiny or something, I don't think he has.
I don't actually believe there's any characters in this lost spot right now.
Yeah. So Trample's good right here.
Well, he does have himself covered so that even with Trample, he'll still have 4 ability.
Yeah, is he gonna even battle though? Like, a bunch can react over here.
This battle doesn't look very good.
I just don't think it does anything. It's almost like that space battle. It's almost like you should just deploy and block some of the drains, since Dark can't react to their own battle. It's like you just deploy some dudes in front of them, deploy some dudes in front of another one, and just be like, I'm just blocking your drains and I'm just doing more damage. If occupation is gone, there's double projections out. Dark right now is doing 3, and Light's doing 4, and retrieving 1. Light's ahead in the race right now, and if they can block two drains, Dark's just doing 2 to Light's 4 and retrieve 1. Light's way ahead. So I think if you're Mike here, you don't battle. You're just deploying guys and saying go. Like, what are you going to attack me? What's Brad going to do? Put another dude down? And I mean, his best case is like EPP Mara. Yeah, see, I don't like that battle because Brad can come back at him. So there will be a react. And
he doesn't even need to keep the Min anymore because Min did his job and can place in the free ride out of play.
Right, and at best you're trading 1 for 1, and then what happens if he gets a trample with that Blizzard 2. What happens if he's got an EPP Morrow? Like, so he Odin combos one of the reacts, like, but then you just wasted.
I guess what? So curious that he didn't bring the men along. I guess it's to get the extra drain in there. Oh, he has the deploy react scout. Okay.
Yeah, so he's got a bunch. I mean, he still could have done Tempest Scout 3 too. Like.
Oh yeah, so that's a good point. The battle did kind of have to happen here because otherwise Darkseid just has to retrieve the occupation with firepower. So that makes some sense. This battle's just going to go really bad though.
Yeah, I mean it's not going to do anything. He's going to trade a guy. They're all forfeit insane because of insurrection. So I mean,
sure.
But he might have to lose a guy and peel a few. He gets to take a card off evac. He opts for Chirrut over Ezra, which Ezra would be great early game. Yeah, there's the trample, which Mike's going to have to grab.
Could have the perimeter scan also.
Especially now that
I wonder maybe this could be why Brad saved so much force so that he can trample twice even through grab.
Could be.
Although it didn't get perimeter scan, I guess. So.
Nope. Yep. So.
I mean, he could still trample again, but less important.
I wonder what's pending on this. Is there a cancel that he has? He doesn't have a rebel in lost, does he?
I don't think so.
Why is this stuck? What options could they? Oh, it does.
Apparently we missed one.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh no.
He verifies.
He's allowed to use the action.
Yeah, he has the option. But there was no rebel in there, which means now if there is a second trample, he won't have. He won't be able to cancel by using that. If Mike had remembered, yeah, there's no rebels in there. Okay, let that go. And then there's a second trample here. He could place that Taidu out of play to cancel the second trample destiny. But now okay. No, we're just going to battle destiny. So
he draws the ray that I think he knew
retrieved
was there.
With Luke. Yeah, because there's just one left. Last turn, Luke paid one and retrieved that ray. That wasn't this turn, right?
I don't think so. He retrieved Menace Phase this turn.
Yeah. So 13.
He gets to peel. He has to peel both these characters. Lose both these characters and peel one.
Yeah,
that's not too bad.
So he traded 3 characters for a trample and an ATSD.
Yeah, that doesn't seem great.
No, see, I just wouldn't have battled. I think going down was fine. I do understand firepower getting back that occupation, but it would have been in use pile still, which means he recirculates next turn, can't deploy it, which means the following turn he has to activate all but those and then take it in hand with objective and deploy it, which means the following turn he's doing damage with it. I think it's almost even worse than that, because he would retrieve it at the end of this turn, activate for this turn. Oh no, because he would put all his use on top of it. Okay, no, you're right. That's how it would end up. Yeah, so it would take so many turns to get that one out. Yeah, I don't know. It's so Dark's gonna do 4 here.
Brad did have a third command though.
Yeah.
Although just verifies with it.
Yeah, there must be a Veers or something in his force pile.
Yeah. It wouldn't probably be another Admiral of any kind, I don't think.
I guess there could be a Mahdi, but
yeah. Veer seems much more likely.
Yeah.
So he did lose the ability 1. Oh no, he lost the react one, I believe.
So he didn't retrieve Menace Fades this turn because somehow Menace Fades is in his hand because Taidu drew it. When he drew one when he deployed, and then he drew that when he was lost.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yeah. So Fades was the one retrieved this turn.
Yes, yeah. So Brad did lose the ability 1 ATSTs. So now all of the ATSTs represent 2 or 3 abilities. So now the reacts are a lot better.
Yep. And he added a free one instead of a cost one. Tempest Scout 6 is another free one. And he knows Odin combo's not in hand, and yeah.
I feel like Brad's positioned himself pretty well here.
Huh. Silverglyn says, I think I don't draw Destiny there as Dark Side. What would have happened then? Dark ended up being power 17 versus 4. If he hadn't drawn the 4, he would be 13 versus 4, which still would have been 9. He just would have lost both dudes instead of both dudes in one. So the power difference was enough once he reacted and deployed all that stuff that, with the system power bonus and stuff, that Mike still would have lost both characters. You wouldn't have been able to like rebeat just one of them.
Yeah. It's a good thought to look for it, certainly.
Yeah.
Any opportunity to strategically not draw Destiny seems sweet to me, but...
All right, so let's, after this control phase, let's look at hand life force counts.
So Brad activates everything here, so he's giving
Mike's
up...
at 26, he's going to take 4, so he'll be at 22 hand and life, and Brad is at 23. So they're very even in terms of hand and life force count after this control phase, 22 versus 23. And of course, Mike gets the next round of damage, so you could say he's slightly ahead. But for the fact that Brad has deployed so many cards to table and still is pretty even on life force, if you look at, how much is all over Tatooine versus how much is hit Scarif, I think Brad's playing this really well. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be, 6 to 8 maybe. So Kessling loses Han Chewie Falcon. Yeah, he's not going to be contesting space at all anymore. I think his goal would have been to just hold. This is interesting. I'm not sure about this.
So I could see this.
Here's what I would like with this. An Emperor going down to the shuttle and then Devastator moving over. And just being like, look, you can't fight into that much power. And so then Light has to run, and you drain 2, and then you're just chasing with your Stardust. Oh, Overwhelmed.
Ooh,
that's not a card you usually see in entanglements. That's pretty good for Darkseid, obviously, taking out that Light space presence. Dark is not going to be able to... Light doesn't have to pay to drain, though.
Right.
That's funny. However... Light getting flipped back means they can't control phase move. They don't have Luke out anymore to ping retrieve. And, Dark's set up to do some more damage by adding that extra drain of 2.
He doesn't have the occupation, though.
Light side, now that he... Yeah, I think he's probably only playing 2. I don't think he's got another occupation. I could be wrong, but... Light side, now that they're flipped back, can pull those ships if he decides to activate, not all of his force. And he goes for the Han Chewie Falcon too to retrieve that with Walkling. So Light can pull a ship with his front objective, but what are you going to do with just a Lone Tanav or Lone Bright Hope against either of those systems? So Light's going to struggle in space now with Dark having sort of massive power and immunity at the one system and good power at the other one. I think.
Yeah, and it's a nice little kind of late mid game gambit here, since Kessling then already lost a number of ships. I mean, he did get back the Han Chewie Falcon after all this happened, but.
So there's a couple interesting things. One, if Light does pile enough ships, 17 is not that much power. If Light gets up to 12, 13, 15, they can just lose a scrub and force Dark to lose something, and start whittling away at that. Right. Second thing to note is Dark only has 2 in hand right now. They've got 1 force saved, so they do have 2 free reacts, but if they battle into one of the free reacts, Dark doesn't have much force save. But yeah, the fact that they're down to 2 cards in hand and Light has 9, it might open an opportunity for Light to attack on the ground. But yeah,
didn't pay careful enough attention to the order that things got put back with Overwhelmed. Do we know what those 2 cards are? I guess the two players now do, since they verified with Insurrection.
Right. One of them, he already had a force in used from the barrier. So it was a force and barrier.
It's barrier and card.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had a 4 on top, and then he just verified with Insurrection to see what the other one was. So he drains, and Dark loses Elsic, something special.
And Colonel Wolf.
And Colonel Wolf from the ping.
Losing Elsic is actually pretty good because that gives a trooper to retrieve.
Retrieve with entanglements that he can track and lose and ping retrieve 1.
And then Brad also did add Imperial Enforcement. So
if there are battles he reacts to and wins, he can try and do the free reacts and then use that one force to retrieve with enforcement, or if Brad tries to whittle down in space, or Mike tries to whittle Brad down in space, but Brad's winning the battles, he can ping retrieve. So it's a good card. One interesting thing we note is Brad is playing something special, an extra grabber for the occupation cancelers and things like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Uh-oh.
We got Jin. Jin blocking the drain at the desert, and then
something just went weird with my camera. Hopefully everyone can hear us still.
So I got Jin blocking the drain at the desert, and then Corrin up against Min Kainu. Joe, can you still hear me?
I can hear you. My camera is going weird. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great.
I'm going to unmute the stream and make sure we're still over there. Okay, and I can hear us both on the stream. So
the camera, something just went weird with.
Yeah, I can see you on the camera on Discord, so that part's fine.
There we go.
So Kessling's done these deploys and is considering what his next move is going to be. And some Chad's going to go to the data vault to flip again. Seems pretty important to protect Jen from the trample that...
See, you can't protect her when she's undercover.
Oh, right, of course.
But see, I would be breaking her cover here. I mean, you already are giving him a guy to battle into to retrieve with enforcement. Like, he probably won't attack both with 2 cards in hand. I would be breaking her cover, and then you're threatening battles at both places, and you can deploy to a third, and then you can attack, and like, where are they going to react to? And
so he's just completely skipping battle, though they are doing a revert, but just only the beginning of move. So that does give Brad another retrieval from firepower,
which will be that something special.
Yeah, pretty good one to retrieve. High destiny, anyway. Oh, he moved to the wrong character from the beach. Sure, that makes sense.
There is a comment in chat from a spam bot saying that we can buy followers for my Twitch channel, so that's pretty exciting.
Oh,
we're big enough to get spammers now.
High value, I'm sure. I can only see Silverglun's comments in the chat. I don't know why that is. So.
He's the only one who's commented besides this one. The second to last comment is a spam thing. Maybe only I can see that one. I don't know. But Silverglun's the only one. There are more viewers. I think.
So putting Corrin down just to block the drain, I guess, is interesting.
Right. It's gonna if Brad has a guy, he'll go ahead and battle and trade a guy for a guy and retrieve with enforcement, and reestablish that drain of 1. But of course, Brad does get the peak. He only had 2 in hand, but he does peak.
Yeah, he gets to look at his whole deck and.
Right. He can peek at 6 cards, so he activated all but 5 to be able to have more of a choice.
He only has to look at, Tatooine. Oh, locations. Yes, he could look at the full 6.
Yeah.
I presume he wanted that much to be able to have
force to deploy and draw and stuff. Yeah. I might have even activated another 1 or 2.
He possibly could pull the trample now with Blizzard 2.
So Dark.
I'm not sure where the trample is. So
because of that spy and the Corrin, Dark's only doing 1 and 1, and Light's.
Well, he does get he gets the 2 at Scarif too.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So Dark's doing 4 and Light's doing 4. So they're once again pretty even on damage. Dark's gonna get the retrieve with their objective. Dark's gonna get any retrieve with enforcement. So Blount, Melshi, Jedi Lev, all lost from hand. Barrier from reserve.
So the two known cards from reserve were lost, and then two more from hand.
And he takes.
He does take the trample.
Trample.
Blizzard 2.
Yeah, okay. He knew Blount and Barrier.
He knew Blount and Barrier, yeah.
He was probably hoping to top deck the Blount and keep the Barrier, but once he lost the Barrier, might as well lose the Blount too.
Yeah. I wonder about that though, because drawing the Blount for Destiny, like that would be a bad Destiny number, but would get you a retrieval from.
That's a good point.
And we're kind of getting close enough that might be important. Although Kessling's still ahead on total count by a fair bit. 19 to 16, so we're at 3, not that much.
Yeah. And Dark will retrieve one here with enforcement and then retrieve with their objectives. So, and just trade a guy here. Basically, you trade evacs for Corrin and retrieve one and reestablish that trade one.
Yeah.
Adam's listening too. I figure everyone's watching football right now. It's the first football weekend of the season. Of course, Kessling and Brad must not be big football fans.
To have agreed to do both games on this day. Yeah, like I don't watch much football, so it didn't even occur to me, but he lost Min. I guess that makes sense, because Min would be a better Imperial to retrieve later at some point. His on-table text doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and when you deploy him again, you get a shield if you can get him back.
Yeah, and the 2 versus 3 ability doesn't really matter here. In fact, the 2 ability is almost better because of
it's 2 extra power. Yeah, it probably very likely does not matter. So he retrieved Tarkin with enforcement, and now he's going to retrieve that Elsik with the objective, and so Dark is at 18, and Light will do 4, so Dark will be at 14.
Yeah.
And Light will be at 19, but probably deploy a couple cards. So,
to answer Stubbly, Light side made a play for Tatooine in space because Dark side moved Devastator away. So Tanev and Luke came down by themselves, and then Shuttle came down, moved back over, Light ran away, and then Light got overwhelmed. Got literally overwhelmed.
Huh. I don't see Stubbly's comment. That's weird. I'm going to refresh the chat, but then it wipes them all out. So,
no.
For me.
So yeah, I guess it's hard to say that that's a play for space on Tatooine.
What was the question?
It was just did Lightside make a play for Tatooine in space? Which, like, I mean, I get they deployed there, but unopposed, so kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Overwhelmed is actually really well timed, because it's like low enough in Life Force now that even though Kessling can pull ships from reserve, or could pull ships from reserve with his objective, there just like wasn't time to do that.
Yeah. Right, and you'd have to not activate all your force, and then you wouldn't have enough. The problem is you're probably only getting one ship out at a time at that point, and one ship can't contest either of these, and that's why it was a good time to do it, is because if it had been earlier, Kessling probably could have scrapped together a couple ships and survived with, forfeiting guys and stuff, and now if he can't scrape together 2 ships, he can't really go to space.
Yep. So we got Leia and Chirrut coming down against Evacs to try to take back the site. Only 1 force saved for Brad, although there's some free reacts here.
So Stubbly asked what the key for no idea is in this. I think he asked about taking over Tatooine. With this alert non-V, I don't think taking Tatooine is really feasible. I mean, I guess you could pile a bunch of ships and get power, but they have the Executor. They have guys that can forfeit. I think Dark's happy to sit there and let Lights throw resources at that. I think if you can get them flipped, that's ideal, obviously. But if Dark gets a great start and just goes really thin in occupation, keeping occupation off the table is one key thing. But yeah, I was thinking it was going to be around 10 for no idea. But now that this has gone on, I'm thinking it's probably going to be more like 4 for one of them. It could go either way still.
So let's to put a bunch of characters here. So we got Leia Organa V, Chirrut, Cassian Andor, and then Chirrut recirculated so that they could do a battle. Odin Nestor combos canceling 1 react.
He still has 2 more or 3 more.
Yeah.
No, 2 because he only has 1 force. But Scout 6 is free, and then either Blizzard Scout 1 or Tempest Scout 3.
And then Chirrut activates a force. I mean, Cassian's going to cancel the Destiny anyway here, so...
Yeah, so he reacts 3 because that's not draining anyway with Jin there, and he does a free 6 react. So now they're very similar power. Light adds to attrition, which I guess it doesn't... Cassian's going to cancel Dark's Destiny. So Light's going to outpower. I think I'd be adding to power there because you're already up by 2 on power, and if you're cracking enough attrition to make him lose 2, then you're cracking enough power to make him lose 2, and you're already up by 2 on power. Kraken is not a spy to retrieve with 10 men.
I always forget I always forget that with Kraken. Because Kraken's also not a spy, so he deploys plus on the 0 side. And
yeah. The non-V is a spy. And that's what...
Colonel Kraken is a spy, yes.
Right. He graduated. He got promoted and became too famous to go undercover as a spy anymore. So Evax died.
Yeah, which also does take away Leia's Destiny adding.
Yeah, I mean, Dark didn't really care about that battle. That, like, Mike just deployed 3 cards. He didn't get to retrieve. He's going to block some drains here. So Dark's going to now do 3. And Light's doing 4. But it's like they're both trying to grind down each other. It's probably going to be a win by 5 or less, and it's very huge that Darkside is shield busted here, and Light doesn't have to pay for either of those drains because they would not be able to afford that. So Dark will peak with their objective.
We got 3 drain damage. Yeah, it should be 3.
Yeah, just from the systems. No drains on the ground, even though he is at 4 locations. Yeah, see, in that Jin, I would have had the cover broken here. Because if you're Light here, you were threatening the extra battle, so it has to move away, and that means you get to drain 1. I don't think she does anything undercover that she couldn't do.
Well, she certainly can't move away anyway. Ooh, okay, all right.
I think that just swung it to Dark's going to win by 5.
Still a small
7.
number, but yeah.
A small number. It's definitely the second game is very much in play, but that's gonna save Dark like 4 or 5 differential at least.
So Moff Gideon comes down. I think that means it's just gonna be battle. Get some retrieval with enforcement.
Yeah. Sure, it's gonna peak. And activate it so that
I think that was the force that was used for movement, so I don't think he knew what that was, but I think that means the next card is the
Stubbly says he debates throwing in free ride combo. Free ride combo was played, so
it got placed out of play. Yeah.
Min placed it out of play. The new allies one that Taco Bell and Greg and Kessling and they all play does have the free ride combo, and I think that's a good call.
Well, that did not go well. Darkseid drew a 5 against a 1, so this is going to be Chirrut and some.
Chirrut and 3.
Yeah.
And Dark got to retrieve, and they retrieved Min.
Getting low enough that he can't afford to keep the React AT-AT around anymore, but that's probably fine.
Yeah, you think you battle on the ground just to trade a walker for a guy and then move Tempest Scout over to block that too? Or, I mean, if you lose too many guys, Light can flip you back, but all that would stop right now is Odrina 1 at Tatooine. If you can kill some of the light side characters there and free up some of those Drain 1 sites, retrieve with occupation.
Yes, I mean the trouble is that battle, the battle now at Mos Espa will just kill Cassian, right?
Right.
And then now Thrawn can shuttle down now
Mm-hmm.
pretty safely. There's almost no way that Lightside could possibly crack the Devastator even without Thrawn.
Yeah. So he battles. He's
I'm
hoping
surprised Kessling didn't actually pull Ezra off at any point here from evac
to
control.
right just for life force, if nothing else. Because it's not like you need to stop multiple destinies unless you're attacking in space into Thrawn. There's no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a mistake. I think that extra life force would be useful and the extra character.
Yeah.
So Light has been
So,
unfortunate not drawing any spies, so they haven't been able to retrieve, and they just drew one less than Darkseid. They were tied in power going into it, and Dark drew one higher, meaning they can retrieve with enforcement again. So Dark's eking up their damage and slowing down Light's with battle order. They're just going to trade a walker for a
yeah,
Cassian.
so I was thinking that too, that maybe keeping the walker would be better because then you can just retrieve Gideon. My only concern there would be that Brad's getting low enough in available
Reacting
active
stuff,
force that
having
he just
four
maybe can't
ability is big.
afford to do all that.
Well, yeah, and then having 4 ability means you don't have to defend that one with reacting stuff.
Yeah.
I think he has enough Imperials to retrieve that he's okay keeping that one rather than losing him to retrieve him. Oh, he loses
Ooh.
Leia. That's weird because she draws on her own and Cassian doesn't. And Cassian already burned his stupid cancel. So
yeah, I don't know that I don't
understand that play either.
I guess like it would make sense maybe if Vanden Willard was in play because then you can put Leia to use, but that's not the case here. So yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, that's really weird. The other thing, if Jin was not undercover, like I've mentioned a few times, another benefit to that would be he could use the flip side and free move her. But
I don't think so because it's still a regular move and it's still plus movement.
oh
to
yeah,
get
yeah,
away from the desert.
desert. Yeah, it's except scouts and yeah. Okay, good point.
Still, Jin, I agree, probably shouldn't be undercover though. So yeah.
Well, now that he can't drain free, it probably isn't. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think Dark's gonna win this by 10 plus now. That battle order is huge because otherwise Light could just try and eke. I mean, having to peel 3 in that Chirrut battle was really bad. But otherwise, if Light had been playing more conservatively and there was no battle order out, Light could just try and survive for as long as possible to just keep doing 4, do 4, do 4, and get, if they can survive 2 more turns of that, 8 gets gets Dark from 12 down to 4. But if they can't afford to do that, yeah, I mean, at some point you suicide Cassian. I don't know why that's not Leia though.
Yeah, I was just thinking if he kept Leia, he could just suicide in if he know. Well, but he doesn't know that he's drawing any good destinies.
Yeah, well, I think you'd break Jin's cover and move Cassian over, move Leia over, and then you eat 5, which still lets you drain 1 more turn.
Maybe that was the plan all the time. He was just gonna break Jin's cover and move Cassian over with her.
Then why keep Cass instead of Leia? I guess just for 1 extra power. But she could draw an extra against Piet or Gideon, so I don't know. Yeah, I think not evacing has been a mistake. He wants to shuttle up Cassian. That's why.
Okay.
I think then he needs to break Jin's cover and shuttle her up too for fodder. And it's interesting that he didn't pay to drain at the beach. I think that's also a mistake. I would have paid 3.
He has Torn for also, so in order to shuttle both these characters up, he needs all the force.
Right, but then you don't need the extra forfeit. I just wanted 1 more guy than just Cassian. So here I would I would just be shuttling Cassian. I would have paid 3, drain 2, and paid 1 to shuttle Cassian and leave Jin there with her cover broken.
Maybe he's wanting to save force that he can retrieve from make 10 men. Although, given the game so far, he's probably not going to get to do that at all. So,
I think draining 2 there would have been worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, with Tauren and Profundity in hand, it makes sense to have kept Cassian because then he can put Cassian back on evac or just retrieve him. Probably put him on evac because I don't think he's going to be able to afford to retrieve him. I don't even know about this though, because this battle saves a force from a drain, but there's
He's
no
going to
way that
retrieve with
you're
enforcement now.
there's no way that you're winning that battle.
Right,
So
because
that
he's going to pull off evac, so it's going to be 12-6. Torrent's going to add 1 to the total, so 12-7.
But yeah, I mean, this does satisfy battle plan, so I guess there's that.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the only. I mean, that's a big thing it does. But I really think you probably only get outpowered by 7, so you lose Cassian and you leave Jin down there, and you have 3 extra damage done. Wow, Mike's already down to 3. And deploying Profundity and Tauren is also extra force loss, essentially.
Yeah.
So if you're Dark here, you're at 14. You battle and retrieve with Enforcement, that's going to be 15, and you're going to lose 4 next round. You're at 11.
I mean, Lightside picks up a card off evac, and then Takubo makes the point that Cassian will pay for himself because he activates 1 when he dies.
Oh, yeah.
So then you can use that 1 to retrieve him.
True. But then you wouldn't have 1 to retrieve if you drew a spy. But yeah, I mean, now he takes Ezra, but like he doesn't even have force to deploy her.
Yeah, I'm puzzled why Ezra didn't get pulled off
sooner. Still seems better in space than Cassian, because once we know he had Tauren to draw Destiny, I was thinking he didn't have any of the characters. I was thinking Profundity Cassian, okay, he gets a Destiny. But now that we know he had Tauren, yeah, Leia adding to power right here would be nice. So Dark's gonna retrieve, Light's gonna lose Jin and peek at Dark's 1 card. And then do 4 damage, and Dark will
That's
win
an
by 11.
That's an interesting play, Silvergun. Are you thinking that he shuttles Veers down and drops the shuttle so that he draws a Destiny? That doesn't seem. I mean, I guess maybe he has the get. No, doesn't seem likely that he has his get. He lost 1 already.
He wouldn't draw Destiny. If the landed 1 doesn't apply its ability.
Oh, it doesn't apply ability. Yeah, so.
Yeah, he could pitch Decree at that point. So
sure.
He'd use Decree 1 last time, and then battle, pitch Decree. Baze would shoot Veers, so he'd be power 3 in a Destiny versus 16 in Destiny?
No,
that's
seems
awful. Unless the 1 card in hand is Gik.
That seems like a
Justin says
great...
if he has Gik.
If he has Gik, then that makes some sense. If he doesn't, that seems like a great way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah,
just sprinting out on the ground.
Spreads. They're going to do 5 next turn. Light could survive 1 more turn.
Yeah, so we can reduce the diff, but it's still going to be 10.
8, maybe? Yeah.
Doing 1, 2, 3. It's going to do 4 damage back, right?
Yeah, I think if he hadn't lost that, moving over Chirrut to get beat down and have to peel 3 extra was not good.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that kind of did end up mostly just being like unfortunate. Because it was just a huge battle destiny difference.
But Mike's been drawing no idea has bad destiny.
Yeah.
Entanglements, once they filter out, it's not awful.
He possibly could have also tracked, because it was like he drew Tantive and Bright Hope back to back, which I think he knew were back to back from the Overwhelms potentially. I can't recall if there were shuffles and verifies and stuff in the middle that messed that up, but
I think they might not have been, because those might have always been active during the shuffles, and that was actually the first time they'd cycled around and not been activated. It's quite possible that's the case. He lost Cassian over Jin so that he could retrieve Cassian.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if he needs the life force. The problem is Cassian forfeits for 7. He only needed to cover 5, and so I feel like Cassian is going to die in the next battle anyway, and that could have happened anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there might just be a suicide battle to lose the last 4.
No, but then he'll still get to enforcement. Why would
No, yeah,
suicide battle help?
yeah, no, that's true. It doesn't save anything because there's no other way, right, that Dark can retrieve besides enforcement before they do a battle.
Yeah, I think you probably move over to Scarif, and it stops a drain of 2 because you give up a drain of 1 at Tatooine instead of 2 at Scarif. And then you're at
And
least killing something. I mean, it
then you
doesn't
lose
matter if it's
exactly
digits.
4. So you'd be able to weather one more turn, but then you still do the battle. You still get the retrieval. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't feel
Dark's
like
going
it
to win
makes
by
too much.
9 if they both play this correctly. Or from our limited information, I don't know what Mike has in hand, but
Yeah.
I think it plays out as um, oh no, Light already did its damage this turn.
Well, we know Mike has.
Yeah. So he's at 11.
Well,
He'll survive one more turn. He'll do 4. That'll knock him down um, to 7, and then he'll retrieve with
we
enforcement.
know one of Mike's cards is Ezra.
Makes 9. Yeah.
This would be the last if he wants to try to deploy Ezra. This would be the last turn to do it. I don't really think that makes sense, but
Right. Drop her in front of Mos Espa or Tatooine,
one of these walkers
on the ship or something. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make a ton of sense other than if you're going to lose her to a drain, deploying her to block the drain also loses 1, but now you have an extra guy down. But it depends if he has better stuff to do with that force.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you are Brad here, your next turn, you swap the ships and you just shuttle down a bunch of dudes from the Devastator. You leave Ozzel and Devastator and you shuttle down Gideon and Thrawn. Um, that's 5 and covers 13 forfeit. That's 18 that it can cover. I guess not if Baze shoots and hits, possibly hits twice. So you might also shuttle down like Veers or even Ozzel, and you just leave a naked Devastator knowing he can't attack it. You just move over Devastator, shuttle them all down, and move over the other 2 ships in front, and then that blocks the beach drain.
Lighttoad's not even going to have enough force left to battle, draw weapon, draw battle destiny.
Kessling's trying to figure out how can he minimize the diff, and I think all he does here is move profundity, eat another round of drains.
You could shuttle Jin down.
Then Dark battles, retrieves 1, moves over, shuttles down to block the beach. Light does 2, and draws up. Don't like that.
Yeah, that.
You deployed Rey, which is a lost card, and you're going to lose an extra 1 at Scarif. Now he's at 5 total, and Dark is going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did he just lose himself the game?
He did not shuttle anyone. He used all of his force to deploy Rey.
Right, and now he's got 5 in hand and life, and Dark's going to do 1, 1, 1, 2. Well, Dark's doing 5.
Yeah.
He had just enough to survive an extra turn to do an extra round of damage, and he deployed 1. And now he does not have enough to survive an extra round of damage. Oh, and firepower is going to happen because he deployed a card. Like, his move should have been moving profundity over. Like, yeah, Dark will get 1 more enforcement drain, but Light will get another drain through. And if Dark...
And actually, putting Jin down to, like, Mos Espa or something would still only be 1 enforcement retrieval. Because Dark can't just... In order for Dark to battle into Jin and win that battle, they have to deploy something else that kind of negates the enforcement.
Right. Yeah, I think if Mike could have survived another turn, he would have done either 4, or if Dark did the move shuttle, Light would have only done 2, but it's still more than the 1 they'd retrieve from enforcement. That was...
Yeah. Lost by 12, but then didn't really... Could have lost by a little less. I don't think a whole lot less, but it could have been 10 probably, or...
I think it would have been 9. Unless Brad did do the shuttle everyone down, but I don't know that he would have.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, 12. Worked out pretty well for Brad, I think. Getting that extra shield puller that cold feet really turned the game because that
Yeah.
forced Kessling to go to space when he didn't want to. It also stopped a turn of damage when the turn he deployed Profundity, he didn't pay to drain, and one other turn he didn't pay 3 to drain when I was like, I would have paid 3 there. So that cold feet alone saved him 5, at least 5, and made Mike do a suboptimal play with Profundity, so he got to retrieve 2 enforcements, etc. So that extra shield was big.
Yeah. I wonder, because Min Kainu pulled the code clearance, which did seem like a reasonable decision because Jedi Lev is pretty common. Um, but I wonder if that would have been better served to be Battle Order the whole time. I
So
mean, Battle Order didn't really make a difference at the time,
no,
so
not
like the decisions at the time I think made sense, but
yeah. Taco Bell points out that rather than deploying Ray, Kessling would have been better just drawing up because then he wouldn't have got an extra one from weapons display. So they're chatting. Kessling says the overwhelm was devastating. Ha. Devastator wasn't even there. Come on, Mike. So, yeah, Brad says he pulled overwhelmed with his Tarkin's bounty. Mike wants a 10 to 15 minute break. Start at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. So in 14 minutes, we'll be back. I'll throw up a little BRB sign. And I'm going to mute myself and Justin. And see you guys in a minute.
both ready.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to this top 8 match versus BKippel and Mike Kessling. Mike is the ISB player, the dark side player at the top of your screen, starting Quat Drive Yards, Arrest Order, and Decree. Brad is playing No Idea, the light side deck we saw in the previous game. Brad won game 1 by 12, which is interesting because I think I would favor ISB in this matchup by 12 at the low end, 12 to 15. But it really can go either way depending on the builds and depending on how they play it. But I think I think dark has an advantage by about 12 to 15. I just did this match where I was the ISB player and Taco Bill was the No Idea player, and I won by 18. But a lot ended up going right for me late game, and that's because I retrieved a bunch with enforcement and the last few turns. I was down to 13 at one point. So yeah, it's a matchup I would favor dark by 12 to 15, and light only needs to lose by less than 13, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
This matchup, yeah, okay. Oh yeah. This matchup is certainly a pretty common one in the current meta. So I would certainly expect both these players to have a good idea of what they're doing in this particular matchup.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I think the impetus is on Mike, the ISB player, for two reasons. One, he's behind by 12 in the match, so he needs to play a little more aggressively, play to keep his life force up. I knew, was 12 the same number I lost to Taco Bill by? I think it was the same number, right. And I needed to win by more than 12. And so, yeah, Taco's in the chat and says yes, that was the number. So so I knew, you got to keep your life force up. You can't get into a grindy game where you both get to less than 10. And so it'll be interesting. There's a couple different directions. So that's one reason why the impetus is on Mike is being down in that differential. And the other is because dark has more lines of play in this match. Light is going to go get Stardust. They're going to go to the beach if they can, but dark really dictates the pace. Dark determines if light's going to the vault or the beach because dark's going to pile one of those two. And if dark piles the beach, light goes to the vault. And if dark piles the vault, light goes to the beach. And so dark really decides what's happening there. Dark can choose to go over to their Cloud City sites, and those will be a drain too with the objective. Dark can choose to go to the war room. Dark has more options and more lines of play than light, which pretty much has its, do its Stardust or beach damage, go to space, and then if it can, attack over at the Imperial Square, attack them off to set up that drain, maybe Blount to flip back, but really dark will be dictating the pace of this game.
Yeah, looks like on turn 1, Mike just played some activation, pulled the Death Star 2 docking bay, played the Cloud City or played one of the Cloud City docking bay or Death Star 2 docking bay, I think, from hand.
Yeah.
And then pulled Mustafar with Quad Drive Yards. Did not pull the Mustafar site, so presumably that was activated.
And I'm sure it's not the last one in his force because he drew 4 cards, and if you draw 4 and you still don't have the castle, you probably just draw that last one. Yeah. There's nothing so urgent with No Idea that you need to grab turn 1. So
yeah, most of No Idea's interrupts are reactive anyway, so they likely wouldn't play one that you want to grab on turn 1 regardless. So
yeah,
like rescue is about it, right? Like you don't care about escape pod.
Yeah, I don't even know what you really grab. A lot of times you just kind of leave it, and then when they do a late game, like recycling a 5 like an Antilles maneuver or a free ride combo or something to try and get a high destiny down, you just grab that. because there's not even necessarily anything that important. I guess rescue early if you can, you probably would, but otherwise,
yeah, it's not that important to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, both sides should grab Lana. Odin is what Taco Bell says.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If either side can be warping around, that's really important to both protecting the square, getting between Scarif and Cloud City. Those movement cards are.
Yeah, and as we saw in an earlier match, there was, I believe, a Lana Dober, or no, not a Lana, an Odin Nestor move to pull a bunch of Scarif guys over to the Cloud City 2-1 in the same matchup between different players.
Which Saw lets you ignore the drain -1, so it's a drain 2 there for light side.
Since both sides have Insurrection and Arrest Order, actual Nabra and Ellis are not in place, so yeah, just the Odin and Lana.
That was a weird turn 1 for light side. They deployed Rogue One from reserve deck, and they had already verified because they pulled the docking bay, so they knew what ships were in there and stuff, and they just deployed Jaren Webb on there, and then used I Can't Shake Him to deploy Torn Far. She's going to add 2 to the total battle destiny because Rogue One is a transport.
But she also gets to retrieve. Well, I guess probably not. No, because there's a secret plans. I was going to say she would get to retrieve also if Jaren Webb has to get lost. But.
Right, and there's no evac to stack. So at some point she'll be doing her retrieve and stack on evac stuff, but it doesn't seem urgent to set up right away. Versus if I had a ship, I would set up Luke right away because he can just start ping retrieving.
Yeah.
This isn't going to do a lot for you.
I wonder if part of this is just he didn't have the beach was activated, so he wanted to use the force. He didn't want to draw it, and this was the ship combo that he wanted to deploy.
Yeah, I mean he wanted Tauren and Rogue One out anyway, and yeah.
I mean, he did shuffle it up, though, so now it's not guaranteed that the beach will be in reserve next turn. I mean, he'll get to verify it, so it's not a huge deal. And then Mike's just drawing up a big hand.
Taco says when he plays No Idea, he thinks the key is to take space and make the dark side pay to drain. And that's true, but the problem with 2 systems is you've got to have enough stacked at both systems. I think your best case scenario is to go light to one system like this and have the dark go to the other one, and then hammer them hard with like a Profundity, Hunshui, Falcon, like multiple stuff, and kick them off that one turn to where you're outpowering them by like 18, and they got to lose like 2 dudes and the ship, and then you can keep them kicked off. But if dark can go to 1 and just run, it's a tall order to kick them off.
Well, so that might be the reason he didn't do the Luke play, because he just pulled R2D2 in red 5 from the No Idea objective
and played Luke for free.
Luke.
Yeah, so now he's 14 power plus 2 to his total. He's going to be retrieving 1. Like he's pretty happy with that space setup. Now most of his space can probably go to the other system and maybe do what Taco's suggesting and attack a bunch. And Taco thinks that he should have gone to Mustafar because then he could also be draining 2 there. This Scarif will be a -1 once the ISB agents flip. And
playing the Rogue One to Scarif makes some sense because then if Mike's going to attack it, it kind of has to be with significant force because Rogue One's immune to attrition.
Sure, but even at this one, it's immune less than 6.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
From its text. So the other reason to go to Mustafar is once you go down to Scarif, if you're already at the system, you're going to flip and you lose the ability to pull to pull ships. Whereas if you're at Mustafar, you don't accidentally flip. You can keep pulling your ships.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting. He goes down with Ozzel so that he can Tarkin's bounty. I'm guessing Mike wants to set up space too. He knows that key is if he's having to pay to drain, that's bad. Because otherwise, I think you'd go Ozzel over to the square to sit there with the Moff for extra forfeit fodder. I'm guessing he went to the castle so that he can play a Star Destroyer up to Mustafar and then shuttle him up. And
yeah, exactly.
That's what we see. And like Taco said, if these were over at Mustafar, they'd be more threatening.
Yeah, I mean, part of I'm wondering too if part of the reason that that Brad is doing his space deploys in this manner. Um, well, okay, so using the objective to pull ships while you still can is certainly more efficient. And I wonder, I'm curious to know how much space he has in hand at the moment to threaten the beatdown that you were suggesting. Because it could it could be that he is trying to pull the space out because he has a fair bit in hand already, so he wants to just get all the ships out of his deck.
So Pole's going to go down and draw one. Taco says Pole in space is sad face because he's not going to be doing his attrition stuff down on the ground to help kind of negate Saw if needed. And but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he shuttles down to the beach or if there is some space fights. If you're Brad here, it's tempting to like kind of spread out and try and get some damage through to get him down below the 12 that you need. But this ISB has such a threat of a big trooper beatdown that it's a tricky balance between I need to be doing some damage when ISB is retrieving one with their objective every turn, and I need to not leave myself exposed.
Yeah. Adding Sergeant Iroll on the vengeance is interesting.
Taco points out Pole's double agent immunity is pretty key.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's pretty likely that Paul is not going to end the game on the vengeance. Whether it's from there's a space battle and he dies to satisfy or he gets shuttled down. I think one way or another he's gonna not be on that ship the whole game. So
sure, yeah.
I think it's kind of fine this turn. To protect against the beat that we were just talking about. It's going to be pretty hard for Lightside to actually clear more than just Paul if they attack the vengeance.
Yeah, or probably the trooper even. Well, maybe he'd lose the ISB agent so he could retrieve him. But unless he's trying to get up to 4, he's got 2 right now.
Yeah.
Dark or Light pays 3 to drain 1. Did he forget Battle Order is out? That seems like a waste of 3 force. I mean, if you're Kessling here, you just lose a double of an ISB agent or something, and you're just like, whatever. Yeah, there's a Tarkin from hand. That's, I'm sure he had 2 Tarkins in hand. He was like, all right, pay 3 to make me pay 1 next turn. I'm okay with that. And then Coward comes out, so Luke can't even retrieve.
Yeah, because he did it in that order. I mean, Luke retrieving the starting order is not like the biggest deal, but you have a retrieval.
Yeah, I would have rather paid 1 to have 1 back than paid 3 to have him lose 1 that he's going to retrieve. So. Yeah.
No, I agree with that for sure.
The back to tank's kind of cool because it's almost like, you know, how annoying Torrin Far is. Like, it works on the ground.
Well, and with this deck full of like cards that deploy for 1 and forfeit for 6. I mean, they don't quite deploy for 1 from the back to tank, but it's still a very low force expenditure.
Yeah.
So we got Gold Leader and Gold 1 going down to Mustafar. Gold Leader and Gold 1 not like super great in this matchup.
And Cold Feet doesn't cancel back to tank anymore. That was Legacy. So I'm sure there's no back to tank answers in here. Ray and Gold Leader. Yeah, I don't like this play either because he's just gonna have to move the ships over and Kessling's just gonna run in space and keep setting up his. He's happy to just let Light waste time chasing him while he sets up his damage.
I don't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think he could throw Ray on Rogue One or something.
Yeah. Like, if it was what I was thinking about, that maybe he's got a bunch of space and wants to use his objective most efficiently, it's bizarre to then deploy Gold Leader and Gold 1 from him there, because that's not a very effective time for it.
It was from reserve.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was. Okay.
So maybe he activated Profundity and...
yeah.
Looks like he leaves Luke. I don't know about that.
I mean, the ISB decks will commonly have Stalker and Vengeance, right? But usually not like Mara and Ship, usually not Emperor Shuttle, right?
It depends. If they're expecting Landing Claw, they might play Mara and Ship. But yeah, usually it's Vengeance, Stalker, and the Death Squadron interrupt to pull them. Sometimes a Tyrant if they want a third ship.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brad had rapid fire / cannon here. What kind of cannon can go on these ships? Are we going to see Tarn? Is Tarn going to sit on and blank all their immunity?
Quad laser cannon can.
X-wing cannon, I guess, to go on Luke if Mars ship attacked or something.
Okay. Sure.
This is definitely a unique build of No Idea. It's not the very standard one we see, which normally doesn't have R2 or back to tank, or it does seem like a little bit more space heavy build.
R2 in Red 5 is pretty unusual, I think.
Yeah, it was played back last summer, like a year ago, in some No Idea builds, but the deck's evolved a lot since then. That version used to use like 5 reacting troopers, and now the deck uses 0. So it is funny to see how stuff evolves.
Yeah, I played some with that deck. I could never find entrenchment, so it was in the deck, but.
So Mike says, I'm not going to go to the vault. I'm just going to set up my Cloud City drains.
Yeah. And then we'll get our 4 ISB agents on table.
Elsic is a disappointing one to deploy with Gideon, who makes a -3, and Elsic's only a 1 anyways. Kind of wasted 2 free force. These characters do not draw Destiny together. Since Elsic is ability 1. I don't think we're going to see a space battle unless there's a barrier here. Tarkin canceling Light's Destiny in space. Oh, there is a barrier.
Yep.
And no evac means that would have been good for Dark. So Dark's just setting up the Drain of 2 there. I'm not sure I like that, like I was saying, because I think you can also set up a Drain of 2 at the Data Vault, prevent them from getting Stardust or force them into battling you, and Dark has more guys, and make the Scarif drain -1, so it saves you a force in space. Of course, Light should not be paying to drain there, but could save you a force in space at some point, and probably will. Does the same amount of damage and contests the Stardust, so...
Yeah, I think I agree.
JNAP says winning the weekly Hollow Theater challenge in the top 8 would be fire. What's the challenge this week?
Cancel the most forfeit with Tarn.
That would be funny.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
You gotta...
Although awkwardly, as we discussed, I guess there's Torin and Ray there. I was thinking that as we discussed, since No Idea's destinies are pretty bad, it's entirely possible that Tarn could come down, they could shoot, forfeit 0 all the ships on the Devastator, and then because of Paul, still not kill anything with attrition.
Ooh,
but
yeah, it's a good
I mean, they would be adding 3 to the total with Ray and Torin Far. So
right, they'd have to get around Tarkin canceling the Destiny.
Yes, they would have to get around Tarkin canceling the battle.
There's 24 forfeit on there right now. 2 6s, a 5, and a 7. So Dark goes plays Wolf Yularen to now give him a Battle Destiny there at Cloud City and to activate 4, and he uses some of that force to go over to the War Room. So yeah. Brad's going to want to look for a projection to go down to that War Room, but in order to fit stuff like Air 5 and back to tank, I don't know that he's running 2 projections. I don't know how much room he would have for all those cards. So he might just start eating and drain a 2, and Kessling will probably just win this by more than 12 is what I'm guessing.
So Vengeance now moves over to Scarif, giving up the drain of 2.
Yeah.
Which
Light will have to pay 3 of their 12 force for and pay for Luke. They're going to be down to 8 force. Light needs to get to the ground pretty badly. Like I probably wouldn't even pay to drain for 2 here.
I mean, he's skipped his beach deploy for a bunch of turns in a row. I wonder if the beach is just in hand. Like,
Mike?
I mean, he has used the objective to pull a ship every turn. So
Mike being down to 8 cards in hand means you don't have to. There probably won't be a huge 40 power beatdown. So you can feel safer going, grabbing the Stardust, moving over to the beach. I think then Mike's play would be to shuttle guys down next turn.
So Mike did retrieve the Tarkin, as we discussed, with the objective, and then drew his last card for force. He already grabbed the barrier, so he doesn't need to save for that, and then doesn't have any Imperials in loss, so doesn't need to save for retrieving from enforcement either. So.
So Luke does his retrieve. Brad looks for a ship, so he's going for space. Drops the profundity for 4.
This battle has to only make sense if there's an evac, right? Because
drops a Jin.
I guess maybe he's just deploying the profundity to put more stuff in space.
Yeah, and then he's going to move over the one of the ships. That's interesting. I wonder if he has any vehicles. Maybe it's just to cap their battle destinies. It did take away 2 power from the dark side. Jin had to go onto Cloud City because Isart is there and can just cancel her undercover, can break her cover. So she had to go to Cloud City, but that's a bummer because Mike can just move them all the way free in control or in move phase, and then Light would have to pay to follow, and it's annoying.
I wonder if it would have been worth it to just play Jin to the War Room anyway, and just make him commit to breaking her cover, adding more there. I don't know. It probably depends on what Brad has.
If there's,
yeah.
Yeah. Taco thinks maybe there's a blue 11 in there that could be pulled with combined fleet action.
Okay. We still got to find the beach, though. So.
Right now, we're looking at a drain of 2, which he loses Taidu, which is a big bummer because he makes him immune to Never Yarnell, and Mike's quite probably running a few of those.
Yeah, and Captain Hera, who's also quite good.
Good against ISB, yeah. She's always going to be adding a Destiny. So yeah, he top decks 2 good characters. And now comes down Stalker. And Light does Antilles maneuver. He's going to have to play someone that only costs 1.
So probably one of the spy pilots.
Yeah. But you don't want to do Blount. So
Bodhi's fine.
Yep. Here's the thing, though. Dark, with that Tarkin there and no evac out, Dark's just like happy to battle. Light's going to be 23 power, and Dark's going to be, well, yeah, 17
Dark might still
in Destiny.
lose that battle.
They'll make him lose. They might still lose the battle, but make him lose a force. But if they can add any other characters. Nope, Dark's just going to do the free move. I don't know why the Stalker at Scarif then. I think I would have put the Stalker at Mustafar and moved over the Vengeance to join it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that makes a little more sense. But
and Jin now can't move because
all the forces
he paid the 1 to Antilles maneuver. Yeah, so now he just moves the 2 ships. I think he had second thoughts. Once he looked at his power total, he was like, oh, another Star Destroyer, and I can cancel his Destiny. And then he looked, and he's like, I'm still down by 6? Nah.
Maybe he wasn't anticipating the Antilles maneuver adding 2 power and a bunch of...
So he would have been down by 4 and been like, okay, I peel 1 or 2 to make you lose a guy. That seems worth it. Yeah.
Or, I mean, his Destiny might just be a 4 or a 5. That's not impossible either. So.
Right. Yeah, the Antilles maneuver might have made him change his mind. So, but Light's just not threatening anything when they have to pay to drain. And the funny thing is, what Taco said is sort of the key to the game for Light is to kick Dark out of space, so Dark can't afford to just pay to drain at like all the different locations they'd want to be at. But that's what's happening to Light right now. Is Light's only activating 12, and they're drawing with Rey and they're retrieving with Luke, and they're just so force choked they're not even paying to drain. Like, Light needs to get into both theaters and start doing some damage, because Dark still has lost just at starting interrupt. It did lose a Tarkin at one point that it retrieved.
Just completely reversed from what we were initially saying was going to be the case.
Taco says same thing that happened versus me. What happened versus me? I don't know what. All right, so Yelnal comes down. If he draws greater than 2, Cassian will die. He grabs that. Presumably,
Expecting multiples of them.
yeah, he's probably playing 3 of them.
Strategic reserves. That is certainly a good card for Mike to know where it is.
Yeah, Taco was saying he couldn't kick me out of space. That's what happened versus me. He couldn't kick. Right. I don't think that's a viable strategy for No Idea. Because Dark, I mean, if you look at how much power and forfeit they can just pile, and then they have so many guys, they still have enough to go to multiple locations on the ground. I don't know that No Idea can really win this without a lot of luck. I think they normally lose that by, like I said, 12 to 15, and it's only if you're playing in match play and you're trying to cut that it's better. That's possible.
So Darknet has their own I Can't Shake Him to add Barrack to the Vengeance. So
which will work with Iroll.
Yeah, so a fight there's kind of a disaster now for Light Side.
Right. I mean, even if they had all their ships, it'd be 27 to 19. Light would be up by 8, but Dark would cancel and would Barrack. They would probably outpower them. So
yeah, certainly good chance to, if you know, good chance, a chance worth taking that they would be able to outpower them, even if maybe they don't actually end up doing so.
I don't know what he's doing moving in front of Tarkin when there's no cancel. I mean, he only outpowered him by 2. Yeah, I guess if Tarkin cancels, Barrack can't do his thing, right?
Yes, I think that is true. Because there will not be any attrition to reduce by.
Right.
Well, but now you don't need Barrack to like.
Right. You cancel and you draw at least a 2 and you tie and you kill someone. Torin, I mean, retrieves
it's
him.
So unlikely. It's so unlikely that he wouldn't draw. It's so unlikely that he would draw a 2 and have to keep it. Because he gets to redraw. Right. He gets to redraw an Imperial with Enforcement. Right. If he could find Vandalite, he would get to redraw.
And now Dark's going to drain 2 and 2. And yep. With 8 cards in hand, probably come down and kill that Jin.
Dream 0 the square to send a message.
I mean, and if he's got... There's not Force for a Barrier. If he's got a Vader in hand to just blank Jin and then kill her.
Oh, yeah, that would be
good for Dark.
Oh, there is the laser cannon batteries. Or the X-Wing laser cannon.
Yeah.
Brad just killing from reserve for all of these.
Yeah.
Double combined fleet action. Feels to me like a really different No Idea build than what we usually see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to question if there's even a beach at all. That'd be bizarre to not be playing a beach.
Yeah. Oh, there's the Vader.
We were talking about. Now, of course, since it's an offbeat build, I wonder if Mike... It's got to be safe for Mike to not play another character there, right? Because if he plays another character, then there could be a React Trooper, right? Oh, no, it will cost 2.
Yeah. Taco says maybe just put Mike on court, and this is more anti-court with the guns and stuff. I still don't know about combined fleet action, but I don't think you can't put someone on one deck and say this is the deck. Like Mike has been playing ISB and court, and like you got to look at what did they submit for both their pod decks and stuff. So I don't think you can sell out when they could go either one. I also don't like that he's still deploying to Vengeance instead of just straight to Soccer, because at some point you want to ship dock and get all these on Stalker so you can do the follow if you start winning in space. And so you might as well deploy it straight to Stalker. You're not going to forfeit Stalker when you have all these scrubs with high forfeit. So why not just deploy it on Stalker? And then you don't have to worry about Tarn or whatever, which doesn't seem likely, but...
He picks up Lieutenant Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Although possibly just going to deploy him again to get the extra card.
And just attack.
Yeah.
Attack Jin. You add an ISB guy here, so now you're doing 2 and 2. He just redeploys him.
Yeah. Although I'm still with you, I'm not sure why he's not deploying to Stalker, but
Yeah, JNAP says confused on Brad's game plan here. I agree. I think Brad. I think his first few turns went awry. He had an idea in his head about going to space, and then he was just too choked without the beach. Only activating 12, spending one of it on Luke. One turn he spent 3 to drain, and he just kept pulling ships, and all his turns were just pull ship, do nothing, pull ship, do nothing, and Dark just started setting up all across the board. So
yeah. He doesn't actually need to, because he can. Oh no, because that's not. Yeah, so I was thinking about the wrong trooper on the docking bay as an ISB agent.
Right. So if he moves over Elsic, he won't have the only 2 ISB agents. If he moves over one of them, he won't get a Destiny at the docking bay. So he needed. I think he should have played another guy here, and he might even cause some overflow then. Actually, he did. He made him lose Jin and 1. Ooh, Odin from hand, which is so weird because Odin's so great to jump around, like Taco was saying. So Odin from hand, I don't really like that because what he could do is just pile a bunch at the vault and then like Odin into Moth or vice versa. But yeah, he was.
Man, the worst part too here is that he gets to the side, so there's a 3.
So their target's
that's probably
gonna
worth
cancel that.
Yeah.
He would have had 1 less power, so it would have been 24 to 21. But that makes no difference. He still would have vengeanced. He still would have decreed. Like I think having pulls 2 power on the ground means Brad is peeling 2 more or burning his Hujix for 3.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the consideration was he might have been able to outpower him by even more with Paul up there. Because with Paul, you have some more protection against the attrition, so you maybe just don't even need to cancel their Destiny with target.
Yeah, I might have taken Ozzel and just dropped Ozzel with Vader for the 3 power.
Okay.
And then he's free. He would have had 2 more force because he spent 2 for pull.
I mean, I could see wanting to draw the extra card off Paul though. So.
But it cost him 2 to do that.
Oh yeah,
you paid 2 to draw 1 versus he could have just drawn those in draw phase.
Yep.
And made him peel more at Cloud City and had an ISB agent there, so it's a drain +1 next turn. So I definitely would have put someone there with Vader. But doesn't matter. So right here, Bodhi dies and goes to the back to tank rather than using Torn Far, which I'm not a fan of because Torn only costs 1. The back to tank is going to cost 2 to take him out. Yeah, he'll be in hand, but then you pay another 2 to deploy him. Would you pay 4, or would you rather pay 1 and have him in reserve deck?
I mean, he gets to put him on road 1 where he has an extra power, so that's something. But this battle
it only adds 2 pilots. It's already got guys.
Oh yeah, that's true. So you wouldn't make.
And again, notice he doesn't drain because he's not at a site. I don't know what's going on with the beach. I think just something went wrong where he activated it turn 1, and then Dark's turn 2, he did I Can't Shake Him for Torn Far and shuffled the beach in. So then he activated again and saw, oh, there's no beach again, pulled another ship, and then and then the next turn he like brain farted and paid 3 to drain, or maybe, yeah. And so,
yeah, because now he's having to deploy that to the data vault, which will satisfy battle plan, but I mean, Mike's had a while to set up a potential attack here, so.
Oh, and I don't like this then.
No,
so he deploys Blount to flip him back, but he's just so thin there. He only has 4 force left. He barely has anybody. He can't attack because then they'll trade 1 for 1 and only Blount will be left, or he'll lose Blount and then Dark will flip back again. He needed to go all these guys over there, kill them off, keep him flipped.
Well, but just deploying and not battling is bad too, because now.
But then you could pay to drain 3 over there. Yeah, I don't know. Dark's now gonna get to pile a bunch of dudes, and he needed more over here. I think I would have given up going to a battleground site to do a bunch there, because if you take that down, then you can just pay 3 to drain. If you're at both systems still, you can just pay 3 to drain 3, and then it's worth paying. But yeah, he just has to run in space with Tarkin there. Yeah, interesting. Dark does firepower, so they'll get to retrieve their starting interrupt. I Yeah, I can't see Brad taking this by 12. I don't think he can win it at all. Or
It's
I
really
mean,
not
yeah,
looking. It's
or
really not
lose
looking
by less
good.
than 12. Yeah, other way around.
I mean, yeah, that beach just has to. You're right. That beach just has to be buried somewhere at this point.
I think he just got
Like
awful luck with the beach.
I thought there was some chance that he had it in hand and was saving it up to be able to like drop Willard at the data vault and then drop a pile at the like to be able to deploy the beach and put a bunch of stuff there at once to have a whole stack there. But
Yeah.
what he's done now just doesn't. That can't really be what's going on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where we're at now. I wonder if retrieving that one with the firepower was better than following with the stalker. Like it probably was, right? Just for the life total count.
What would the empty stalker do?
I mean, it saves a. It's just saving a force because you're probably going to move both of them over to Scarif the following
But
turn.
It doesn't save it. You just spend it this turn instead of next turn.
Well, but he's spending the force on moving instead of spending it on retrieving. Is what I'm wondering.
But
that's
now
probably...
he can spend it on moving on his turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely want to retrieve there. If Menace Fades was on table, I would say you follow a Stalker so you can get an extra ping drain rather than retrieve. But since no Menace Fades, you don't care about following.
Trying to think about the only alternate line that seemed apparent there. So on for Mike here, beating down at Coruscant has to be the best option, right? Like if he has a beat force of troopers or something in hand, which seems likely.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to kill the Blount. Oh, I guess following with Stalker wouldn't have mattered, right, when he's not flipped. But Dark is still going to do 1-1-2, so they're still doing 4. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Dark will just pile there and eventually kill the Blount. They'll trade back and forth, but Dark will retrieve with Enforcement. And that's what happened to me against Bill is he got a Blount down after a while. But by that point, I was spread, and then I got like 5 Enforcements through in the last like 3 turns. And so even if you don't have ISB going, Enforcement's just such a good card.
Oh, well, that's a pretty efficient way to attack Blount, is just adding Ancient Callus by himself, or with Gideon. I guess not guaranteed that you'll actually crack Leia's 6 forfeit there, but...
Well, and theoretically, if Leia adds to attrition and he draws like 5/5, he could clear both. So I would definitely be putting a couple more dudes there, but this is a good one to... What did he take with Callus? He revealed... Oh, he's still thinking. He revealed Min and Kerr. And he takes Kerr.
I always feel sad when I don't get to pull Min with Kerr, but sometimes you do what you have to do.
Yeah, Justin Branch points out we're going to see No Idea lose by 10 plus both games. Yeah, Dark's gotten interesting with their ISB warping the meta a little bit. So here comes down, extra power, extra forfeit. We're now looking at 12 power to 3. So I don't even think you can add to attrition with her. I think you have to add to power.
You have to add to power so that you don't have to...
Oh, and he adds to attrition. I think that's a mistake because now he's going to get massively outpowered and he's going to have to lose both. He can't afford to peel like 10 when he... So...
he's going to be down by so much. There's no way. Although he does get to put Blount on back to tank.
That's true.
So, there's the Mara.
Yeah, so he's down by 16, 14.
He can't
and
even retrieve.
They only cover 12, so it's going to be both of them and 2. And the attrition isn't really going to do anything here. Yeah, you make it 6, which Callus covers anyway.
Yeah.
You made him kill Callus instead of her, but she's an ISB agent, so she'll probably get retrieved right now as Blount goes to the back to tank. They flip, and she'll get retrieved. So, he needed to add to power because then he wouldn't be peeling 2 here. Leia's going to go used. Blount will go to the tank and appeal 2. Alice is a he, apparently.
It's more obvious in the alternate art version.
Okay, this totally looks female. I don't know.
He's wearing a helmet, so I mean.
But the facial structure.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I can see it. So he does Gick the last 2, or Hujix the last 2, I should say.
Callus, Ezra, and Hark. Those 3, I can never remember their genders. For some reason, I think all 3 of them are female.
I mean, Hark's an alien, so that's okay.
And Ezra has a full mask on, but the name Ezra just reminds me like Esther or something like that. It just sounds female to me.
So Vader moves back to Mustafar, presumably to prepare for a move to the Data Vault or something.
Yeah, he peels 2, or I mean, he loses a Hujix to avoid peeling 2 to that battle. But I mean, what are you going to come back with Blount and more guys? He needed to. He shouldn't have gone to the vault. He couldn't split that much. With Mike able to just come down with Imperials -1, he needed to really pile the square there with Blount and keep him flip back. Yeah, I think you're right. Vader's going to go to the vault so he can blank Saw, and Mike will mount an attack there next.
Yeah, he needed to pile enough at the square to be able to attack that turn and kill him off. Because then it takes away the deploy -1. Like you lose Vanden Willard or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe even, I mean, if you have those 4 characters, did he have enough? He might not have had enough force to play all 4 of those characters to the square.
So, maybe. So now Light's going to do 1 and 1, drain 1, ping 1.
He can retrieve also with
Luke. Yeah.
Retrieving the Hujix isn't bad, although I think he lost his escape pod already. I can't remember now. He played the escape pod very, very early, so he might still have it.
He played it used to reduce damage from TTO and occupation and stuff, just to get it out of his hand as a 5, indicating he already had Hujix in hand at that point.
Sure. Okay.
So, yeah,
So it's still somewhere in there then.
Yeah, I think if Light's going to deploy something, probably won't battle, unless they have an evac. Oh, they can't, though. They need 3 in reserve to evac
now.
So,
yeah, the game's gone on long enough that evac control is not really a reasonable card to play anymore.
Yeah.
Because they'd have to leave like 4 force back to play it and then battle and then...
So Light flips
Blount off,
back,
plays it again.
The problem is Dark is like, there's still that War Room drain is just going to add up. Like even just 2 and 1 is going to add up when Light's doing 1 and 1. It's and Light just gets.
So he's just blocking. He's just trying to block all the drains. He found the beach,
but he can't afford to move out there.
He can't move there. Yeah,
he can't afford to move any of his ships. He can't.
I wonder why he left one. Oh, he left 1 force back so he could draw Leia with Willard, but then why didn't he activate the last force to? Yeah, I don't know why that happened. And then Mike lost extra Lieutenant Paul from hand, which will get probably retrieved here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. So Mike's at 18, and Brad's got to get him down below 12, but he's also got 10 in hand. So really he's at 28, and he needs to get him down to 12. He needs to do 16 damage on top of whatever Mike retrieves, not from his objective right now, but from enforcement. So he's got to somehow push about 20 or 25 damage through, and he's doing 2 a turn. I don't see any feasible way how he can do that. With how split he is, maybe if he somehow got a beatdown and Mike didn't have a Gick, but even then, Mike's not really vulnerable anywhere. He'd have to have bays and.
This deploy back to the square just feels really desperate because it's the same situation as it was last turn, but there's also already Kirkenis there, so yeah, he just gets to play these troopers and trooper assault probably.
Probably an extra 4 power. Why not? An extra 6 power now.
And
Yeah, so then you're at 22 to 3, and he burned his Hujix.
Yeah. and doesn't have the one active, so you can't even bluff that he has the escape pod.
He burned his Hujix to save 2 damage, and now he's going to be peeling a bunch. There's a Garrison.
The Garrison.
Kessling knows he burned the Hujix, so he's like, let's do it.
Yeah, he knows he burned the Hujix.
Did he retrieve the Hujix, though?
He did retrieve
but
it.
It's at the very bottom of his reserve.
Yeah, and then since he didn't activate the last force, he can't escape pod for it, so unless he's running 2.
No, yeah. I mean, he could have 2, but if he's not, this is game here. It's 33-3. He's down by 30. They forfeit for 12 combined, so he's down by 18. He adds to power.
He does have to power now.
if he's adding to power, he doesn't have the Hujix.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, so this is just game right here. Mike's gonna win by 19-ish, 20, I guess, after enforcement. So
Brad had kind of an interesting build, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, talking about Texas Mini Worlds in general now. Our top 4 will be Joe Olson versus Greg Shaw on one side of the bracket, and Kessling versus MHT on the other side. I think MHT, you've got to say, is the odds-on favorite right now to take it. Greg's been playing really well. He won the Continentals or U.S. Nationals or whatever they call it last summer. So Greg's really strong, but MHT, besides 4-0ing his pod, then beat Bastion in the round of 16 and beat Desai in the round of 8. So you would expect him to beat Kessling and advance to the finals. So I think he has the best. He would have the best odds to win it right now.
Yeah, MHT's been playing really well. He has really good, really good approaches to his matches, I would say. Because from the little bit that I saw of him playing, it didn't seem like he was leaning into this like ISB no idea.
He's played all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to say standard of the metagame, but like the experience of having played this matchup a bunch that you have and that Mike has, isn't necessarily going to pay off.
He did
fully.
use no idea to beat Bastion.
Yeah.
What did he use against Desai?
Desai was the game one that I saw was Court against Legend.
Right. And Legend beat that. Yeah, so he's mixed it up. He had QMC in his pods. He had no idea in the 16. He had Legend in the round of 8. So he's mixed it up a lot, and he's been playing well. So anyway, finishing this game, that was the end of the game. Without the Hujix, Brad just scooped right there and said good game. He was down 30, and they forfeit 30. For 12, so 18, both of them in 18. That's more than he had. So
18 was exactly as much as he had. So.
Oh, you're right.
Not that matters, but
yeah, congrats, Mike. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of this tournament plays out. Thanks for watching, guys.